Hello, guys. Welcome to yet another intriguing episode of Bubble Chats. Yes, we are live again today. I have a very, very diverse panel with me here, all the way from all the places you can think of in the world. I'll allow you guys to introduce yourselves quickly, starting from Fanuel all the way from Manchester, UK. After Fanuel, I'll go to Ife, Rimbai, and then Todd in that order. So, guys, just for the next minute or so, feel free to introduce yourselves. Fanuel.
Thank you, Paul. My name is Fanuel Masinkire. I am a Zimbabwean international based social worker, experienced and specializing in child protection and mental health. I'm very pleased to be part and parcel of the team to discuss about mental health during the festive season. Thank you.
Awesome.
Hello everyone, my name is Ifeoluwa, speaking from Nigeria. I'm a lawyer and coach. It's exciting to be part of this conversation because it is one that is important to me. Thank you very much.
Who's next? Is it me? Hi everyone, my name is Vimbai Chinyai. Um, I'm based in Sydney, Australia. I'm glad to be part of this conversation and looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Todd. I'm based in the United Kingdom, and I'm glad to be part of the conversation. I'm a business and life coach.
All right. Thank you, guys. Awesome. I am a little bit intimidated already because of some of the qualifications that I just said coming out right now. But anyway,
Don't be
we want
intimidated.
I'm sitting with social workers and life coaches and lawyers and all this and all that. But yeah, we want to get into this conversation in a very casual manner. First off, let me just sound this trumpet before we even get into talking mental health in this festive season. It's actually a blessing and an honor just to sit around as Africans to really talk about these issues because, particularly this one, it's been something that has been sort of a taboo to talk about. We grow up as young boys, particularly young boys, and we are told that boys don't cry, and you shove it off, you brush it off, whatever life brings to you. And yeah, I have three capable men, and of course the lady, ready to talk about these things and really get into detail. We had a conversation before on this season, actually on season 2 of Baobab Chats, touching base on what is mental health. So I would love really to get a quick recap. Uh, Mainly, I'll start with you, Maichinyai Rimbai, to just, from a social worker perspective, define for us and maybe just hint us a little bit what really mental health is all about.
I think, in simple terms, mental health is about the well being of the mind. Can you hear me? I feel like I'm having an echo.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, so I was saying mental health is definitely speaking about the well being of the mind. Um, when the mind is in a good mental state, everything else falls in place. When the mind is affected, it affects the way we think, it affects the way we behave, it affects the way we act. So, in simple terms, let me just say it's about the well being of the mind.
Else who can add on to this? Come on, guys, feel free.
Paul, we can talk about mental wellness as Mbai have already articulated. But at the same time, we can also talk about, issues to do with negative um, impacts that the environment or the genetic makeups, contributes to our mental wellness. So these are the basic issues that we need to be discussing: how we are influenced by our environment, our mental thinking, our mental wellness is influenced by the nature around us. So basically, looking into festive and the Christmas holiday, there are a lot of issues that we need to look about and how they have got a direct contribution to our mental wellness. Thank you.
Could I quickly add on to that, please?
Freeman, before.
Yeah, yeah. From a coaching and sort of like a mentoring sort of like perspective, I find that mental health is actually about the way we perceive our environment and the way we respond to it, because that, in essence, is going to determine, the outcome of what we want to achieve. And coming up to this festive season, especially with this year that we've had of COVID-19, there have been many challenges that we've faced, and they impact heavily on our mental well-being.
So yeah, I am just getting people already on social media jostling and bashing and trying to say I was here first. You're all here first, and you're going to enjoy this great conversation. I'm glad people are still tuning in their numbers. Take a friend, tell a friend to join in because we're going to really get into detail with these things. I'm sitting here thinking, it's festive season. I'm already sitting behind Colonel Sanders, and it comes with the pressure of being with family and friends, going out, having fun. Sometimes taking a back seat and have a rest. All over the world, it's probably Thanksgiving all over the world. But with 2020, as it were, it seems like all our plans have been taken and thrown out of the window. What kind of implications do we have to anticipate with all this situation going around? And now we're walking into this festive season.
Okay, it's okay if I respond to that, right? Um, when we started this year, we had our New Year resolutions of everything that we wanted to achieve, everything we wanted to do. Some of us were hoping for a fat bank account and a slim body, but it's worked the other way around. But still, hey, but now coming to the end of the year, sometimes as a person, you feel a sense of loss because you've not been able to achieve or attain what you aspired. And what has made it even worse is that a lot of us have lost close friends, family members. We've not even been able to attend funerals. We've not been able to have body viewings. It's pretty much an isolation kind of thing. You just put into a box and you're told to wait there. You don't know really how dangerous this thing is. You don't know whether we're going to make it through it or not. You don't know if all these vaccines coming out are safe or not. I mean, when you listen to all the things that have been said on social media, so it plays a lot with the mind. And sometimes even the focus that you had, that will change and that will shift because now you get into survival mode because you're wondering if you're going to make it through 2020 rather than what have I achieved in 2020. So that weighs heavily on the mind.
I agree with Todd. I think that there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure that is coming with this season because around here we are looking at getting out of the lockdown. We are looking at people trying to ease into a new kind of life. So folks here are talking about being grateful that you are alive, not necessarily that you have accomplished anything. Nobody is talking about how far with your New Year resolution, how far with your New Year goals, because we are all just grateful to be alive. And I think that has huge impact on mental health. Really, um, there's a lot that impacts with how you think, what you think. In fact, how some people look at themselves. Many people have had to live alone for a while. They have had to stay alone, and it has impacted what they think about themselves. And I think that is quite constructive when we're talking about mental health.
I, I
Yeah,
also think like before. Let me just interrupt you before you go in. The life coach here said something that really touched me when you actually said Todd when you said um, people have lost loved ones and the natural process of grieving has been interrupted. You don't get to travel and mourn someone that you've known all your life, and you feel a sense of betrayal on one side that this person might not know that I didn't show up, but inside you there's this guilt and betrayal that I feel like I've betrayed. I have a good person I know whose mom passed away, and he couldn't travel to go and bury his mom, and it's maybe some of the things that brings us into that inception point where your health mentally starts getting affected, because now you have to deal with unnatural situations and unnatural processes that have really been impacted by and interrupted by perhaps lockdown regulations. You can go in, man.
Okay, thank you. I was just about to say, the year's been a lot of stuff going on through the year. It's quite a unique year, not in good terms. But talking about the festive season coming, we have people who already have mental health diagnosis, and one wonders how the festive season would, come up with. So there are a lot of things that are going on. There is a lot of pressure that's upon our shoulders. There are expectation from relatives, from friends, and these also contribute to the pressure that we already have, and that already contributes to the impact that COVID and the new world order has brought to our lives. So there is a lot at interplay in how our mental wellness is. Most of the people have lost their jobs. Our routine has gone away. We have lost that. So how then do we deal with the pressure that is also coming on with the festive season, expectations, buying, gifting, and so forth? There is a lot to do with the mental wellness in our lives. So, thank you.
I think to add on to what Fanwo is saying, Christmas, apart from the impacts of COVID-19, you find that Christmas always comes with its own pressures and stress, mainly because everyone wants to feel loved. It's a season of showing love. Unfortunately, most times it brings with that pressure, whereby there's a pressure to buy gifts. Somebody mentioned buying gifts to friends, being in groups because people are gathering. Maybe it's a fortunate thing or it's an unfortunate thing that this year we cannot gather because of COVID, but it's all those things that bring pressure during the festive season. What people post on social media, maybe alone, I can't be with family, I can't be with friends. And then I've got this pressure that I see on social media, people posting with their loved ones. It's all those pressures that come in the festive season, and they definitely impact on our mental health because, like I said earlier, everyone wants to feel loved. And then if I'm all alone, I feel like, okay, I'm lost. Other people are having fun. So all those things, they definitely impact on our well-being. And I think it's necessary for us to discuss how best do we deal with those issues? How best do we manage to cope with those pressures, with those stresses that come with it?
Yes.
I want to take us back a little bit to the part where you spoke about diagnosis, because really, before we really jump into solutions and how we can cope, I feel like we really need to dissect and open this wound a little bit more. Sometimes the wound has to be cut a little bit deeper so that we can heal it. And I'm not an expert on mental health. I've experienced it personally, and I know people have been affected by it personally, because Man United has been losing during lockdown, which is actually very hectic. And we have been working from home. I see Todd there has got some company, and sometimes you have to go and tell someone to hold the dog's mouth because you're having a conference call with the boss, and our finances as well. You mentioned that people have lost jobs, and it's a reality we're living in. Apart from technology coming in, people in this season, this festive season, are used to having 13th checks. The bonuses kick in, so already you're mentally budgeted for a surplus of some sort, and all of a sudden you don't even make it to the bare minimum because you lost your job. I was speaking to somebody who was so glad that they were moving out of home in 2019. Like I'm getting ready to be independent. Now I'm on my own. And then all of a sudden lockdown comes and you feel like I want to go back home and be with my parents. I'm gonna throw this back to Todd as a life coach. I'm coming to you. I left home. I wanna go back home. Where do I start from here?
Well, the strange thing is, we don't quite understand, let's say, mental wellness as I'll speak from the background where I grew up, because you were expected to just cope as a man. You're expected to provide as a man. You mentioned something very important, that the 13th check. The reason why most people looked for employment when I was growing up was for the bonus, that 13th check. We didn't worry much from January to December, but that bonus check, it was a motivator. And unfortunately, when we moved from home and to the different parts of the world, that's not necessarily the culture. So there was a lot of adjustment to do. And that's why you find that a lot of us Zimbabweans, or a lot of people from Africa, a lot of Africans rather, they will work extra shifts, long shifts, they will do multiple jobs because they're trying to compensate and overcompensate, and to look after people that are back home. And unfortunately, because of the mismatch, of the life we get to learn abroad and the life that is actually in reality on the ground, right? There's that disconnect. So even when you go sometimes, I'm sure sometimes when you visit at home, you'll find that things are not the way you expect them to be, but it's normal. For them, it's normal. And you begin to wonder, is it like a mindset? Is it a mental health problem? Or am I the one who's got an issue? That in itself begins to strain you. Right. So even when you're looking for opportunities, people talk about, oh, you can do chicken farming, you can get, agricultural land, you can get this, get that. It sounds simple from this side of the world. But once you hit the ground, that's not the case. So now for you're talking about wanting to go back home. Firstly, there's an expectation that when you come back home, you're going to bring something with you. You're going to bring gifts, you're going to bring money, you're going to show qualifications, there's just that pressure that you need to bring something. You can't just go back home. And sometimes you actually put off going back because you have not achieved that. But sometimes what you need to achieve is actually back on the ground. So you need to be able to open your mind to discover what your strengths are, your weaknesses are, what opportunities you have on the ground. You also need to understand, sometimes our relatives and our families and friends on the ground are actually threats to our resources, because all they want to do is to spend and eat, spend, eat, spend, eat. How you're getting it, they don't really care. You understand? So when you decide you want to go back, you have to make a plan that you feel is sustainable, that you feel you can maintain, that you feel will produce the results that you desire. And I often encourage people that when you're going to go into a business, don't go into partnership with people that you are emotionally attached to. If I employ my own brother and he steals from me, it's very difficult for me to fire him. It's very difficult for me to sue him. It's very difficult for me to get him arrested, because everyone will be like, but he's your brother. But if you want to go that way, understand there's a difference between relationships and business, and you have to treat them as such. You have to become a new creature. You have to become someone who manages their time well, manages themselves well, you manage your own mental health well, you manage your own business planning and business progression well. And those are the discussions you have to have with yourself, and you implement them. So for me as a life coach, that's where we usually start, about what it is you want to do, how you intend to do it, and then we dissect the realities of what it is you want to do. And I've actually noticed that some of the people that have gone back home, they will go home for 3 months, come back for a month, go back home for another 4 months, because it's a gradual process. It's not a thing that you can sort of like say, when I retire, I'll go and everything is fine. Because look at the people that are retiring now, going back to, let's say, Zimbabwe now. There's absolutely nothing there for them until they start producing things for themselves. So you've got to be in that mindset that I'm going to nothing and I have to produce stuff.
You a little bit there, because someone is actually commenting on exactly what you're saying, and they're talking about. Let me read it quickly. They're talking about the impact of mental health within the family. So before you even explain further what happens when you're back home, because this is something that almost all Africans across the globe suffer from. You are trying to go back home for the festivities, be it Cairo, Nairobi, Kenya, or in Lagos, Nigeria, wherever you're coming from, you're going to. And when you get there, you also find people in the homestead, people in the family. And obviously, we're not all experts on these issues, but is there a way And I'm asking this directly to Vimbai. Is there a way, as a social worker, that you can identify in the family a person, an individual in your family, perhaps even in your extended family, that this one might be suffering from a mental health related issue? In our gathering around, in our merriness and happiness under the Christmas tree, you're looking at your cousin and you're like, these eyes are too purple. There's something going on there.
You've already said the purple eyes. When you look at purple eyes, you can tell someone is not well. But anyway, I'm just kidding. Um, I think if you know someone well, you can be able to tell if they are well or if they are not. There are many factors that can help you identify if someone is coping or if someone is not coping. But generally, if we are around our work colleagues, if we are around our families, people that we interact with on a daily basis, you will definitely know if someone is not well. Maybe their eating patterns have changed. You pretty know that this person have got a high appetite, and maybe all of a sudden they don't enjoy food the way they used to do. Maybe someone used to enjoy hanging around people, and all of a sudden you just see the person is just not interested. Maybe you are a group of friends. Maybe when you say let's go out, the person is always willing to be doing activities, and maybe you just see that the person is no longer interested in the things that they used to enjoy. That can be a, a factor that you can identify that, okay, this person is not
I'm
doing
so
well.
sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm enjoying what you're saying at the same time, as educative as it is. But like my esteemed colleague here just said, in our culture, sometimes we would think if it's a lady, she's pregnant. And for guys, we think they're on drugs or something is going on weird. So people have got this mask they put on to try and close, because we know the answers already. If I woke up, if I wake up in the morning and I don't have my breakfast, people will start talking. So we have this tendency to hide the obvious. I'm just trying to expose you a little bit out here so that you take us a little bit deeper into this one.
I'll give this one to Fano.
Hello. As Vimbai was trying to explain, with mental health, um, you can always be able to observe people's behaviors, how they have changed. You can always, tell. I have my best friend. I called you last week. You know, I said, "What's wrong with you?" She says, "Everything is okay," but I could tell that this is not the usual person I talk to. But only today she told me about how things have been going and how that has been impacting on her mental health. So it is something that you can observe from how people react, from how people feel, their feelings. You can express and tell that people really suffering from mental wellness. So these are things that we face every day from the environment that continuously stress on us. And coming festive season, it's no exclusion. So it is a time with expectations. It is a time with a lot of activity, and so much things are going on in our lives. So it stresses us on commitment, family commitment, financial commitment, and social commitment as well.
One of the things I wanted us to really maybe also talk about is the increase in suicides in this period, in this festive period, all over the world. Suicides increase on festive season, lockdown or no lockdown, and with lockdown now, it exacerbates the situation. I'm going to throw this one to you, Ife. Uh, what can we do right now? Someone is holding a gun to their head, and it's actually as worse as it sounds. What are the coping mechanisms we can throw out there to say, okay, uh, 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 this is what we need to talk about to ameliorate this plight, especially on the issue of suicide?
Thank you. Well, I think that for every individual who commits suicide, usually they meet with one person before they go ahead to do it. There's usually somebody who met them last, somebody who could have identified the possibility that they were going to do that thing, somebody who saw them and who felt no, he's fine. Somebody who asked them, "How are you?" and the person said, "I'm fine," and you just took that "I'm fine" as "I'm fine." Sometimes fine is actually more of feelings inside not expressed. But if we're going to deal with that at this time, we have to also pay attention to people. Like we have said, we have to be sensitive and we have to truly care. Sometimes when we ask people, "How are you?" we are not interested in what their answer would be. We have to really care about people at this time. I think that's one of the first things we must do if we're going to deal with that issue. The second thing is we have to encourage ourselves. We really have to encourage ourselves when we gather together, when we are seeing each other. It should not be about asking you how is your new car, how is your new house. We have to be sensitive to the season when we are talking with people. We should not be the ones putting pressure on them. It's interesting because many people are coming home. They are hoping to come and feel loved at home. But there are some of us that are waiting for people to come back home so that we can remind them why they left. So we ourselves would have to take responsibility to say that I want to be responsible for the person who is beside me, to make sure this person does not take life into his own hands. And then I think we have to also talk about purpose. Usually when people commit suicide, there's that feeling that there's no purpose for my life. And I wish that we can make that very clear to everyone who's going to be watching this, that there is a purpose for your life. No matter how bad things go, there is a purpose for your life. There is something that you can contribute to humanity. Mankind is going to lose something when you take your own life. And I think we have to emphasize that all the time, whether there is storm, whether there is wind, whether there is rain, whether there is drought. We have to understand that we are here for this time. You are here now for a purpose, and you must have a purpose. I think that by the time we begin to help people see that, when people, especially young people, when they can realize that your biggest problem could be the hint to the solution you're supposed to bring to the world. So perhaps instead of taking it as as a reason to kill yourself, you can take it as a reason to live. I think we have to begin to talk about some of these things and encourage people to really look out for other people. Have to encourage people to look beyond their nose. Just stop being. Sometimes there's a lot of selfishness in these things. We are thinking about ourselves, thinking just about ourselves. I think we have to learn to begin to look beyond ourselves and find a sense of purpose for life. That brings a different dimension to everything that we are talking about when we understand that even COVID-19 has brought some, as in a way, equipped us to actually add value. We have realized some problems that we did not see before that we can now solve. People who are in the tech community are rolling out solutions every day based on problems that have been identified following COVID. So we have to begin to look more about solutions rather than blame trades. I think from my hand, these are some of the issues I think we can begin to address if we are going to get lasting solutions to these issues.
I'm sitting here thinking, okay, so why are you not having updates on Facebook Live from the World Health Organization? Because like you're trying to close this show, and we still want to talk about more stuff here, but you're closing everything out. Purpose, purpose. And there's something that you said that I would really wanna reiterate on, which is being selfless. I think we also tend to be very selfish when it comes to this season, where people are like rugby boys in the locker room, measuring who is done better than the other, instead of coming in together and just celebrating even the smallest person has brought to the table. Even the one who has nothing on the table still needs to be celebrated by just being brave enough. And I would love to ask our production team to just take a crop of the one that you just threw out there and really post it out some other time. Everyone has got a purpose, and we can never emphasize that enough. There's something that just ran into my head while you were talking. I think this situation also differ. I'm thinking of people who have lost loved ones through suicide, and they've got questions. Why didn't the person trust me with whatever was bothering them? I think it's worse for parents or spouses, and you think you're very close to the person. I was fortunate enough to watch a guy from the States who posted a video on social media, on Facebook actually. He was talking about how he lost his son who hanged himself while everybody else was at home, and there were no telltale signs that there was something wrong with the boy. And how do we probably, what message can we send out there to people who have say lost loved ones, and especially through suicides? And you're sitting in this season and you know everybody else comes in and you know they're not going to come. How do you deal with that? Let me throw that back to Todd.
All right, thank you very much. First of all, an important point was made by, is it Effie? You know, purpose. Why am I here? The mistake we make is we want to look at why other people are here. Why is that person this? Why is that person that? The only person you can control, the only person you're in charge of is yourself, right? And that's one of the first things we establish when we're coaching. Why are you here? Because sometimes we think we need a job, we need to form a company, we need to do this and that. But until you learn to investigate and understand and dig deep within yourself and understand yourself, because most of us don't understand ourselves, that's why we end up saying, oh, I didn't know I could do that, you know, because there's a lot to be discovered in us. Coming to the point of suicide, right? The first thing we need to understand is at some point, everyone will lose their lives. It's an unfortunate thing, but it's going to happen someday. The thing is, we don't know how, and we will never understand. The fact that we will never understand is something that we need to accept ourselves. You know, that we cannot control everything, but how we react and how we respond to the events that happen around us, you know, is very, very important. I'll give an example of myself. I lost a sister-in-law earlier this year. She was very close to the family. She was actually one of my very, very good friends. But I had to be strong for the sake of the family, because it broke everyone totally. My children, my wife, my mother-in-law, everyone was totally torn apart. But we still had to go through the process of mourning, the grieving, the burial, and everything like that. And sometimes you actually have to sort of like put your own feelings aside to deal with that, you know. But you have to make time to actually address it later, because it bottles up and it builds up, because it can happen one day that it all comes back and it hurts me so much, or it affects me so much, I no longer see the value in my own life. Then I decide, you know what, it's not worth living, because I don't enjoy it anymore, you know. And those instantaneous decisions are reasons why some people just grab the gun and shoot themselves. But in some instances, we ignore the signs, the telltale signs, like my sister there was saying, that, you know, you can notice the behavior of someone. You can notice, you know, even their well-being. You know, you notice a lot of things, that there are a lot of changes, and we need to engage. And sometimes those people, when we don't engage, they feel neglected and they feel, well, no one cares. Because the thing that we all need is companionship, whether it's through family, through relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Companionship is very, very important. No man is an island, and we need that sense of belonging. But when you discover that no one really cares, no one really wants me around, you ask yourself, why should I stick around? And then you think, oh, I'm going to relieve them, and just get rid of yourself. But then that impacts again on other people. And you'll find even in families that people will tell you, oh, we have a spirit of suicide that runs in our family, where a grandfather committed suicide, then a father committed suicide, an uncle committed suicide. It becomes sort of like the escape route, because no one is addressing it and no one is dealing with it. So it's up to us to encourage people, instead of just accepting it as norm, or just accepting that, you know, people kill themselves. We need to address it from our perspective, from our point of view, you know, and seek assistance. We've been fortunate enough that, you know, some of us have now learned and understood the importance of mental health and how to deal with these, you know, with grief, you know, the stages of grief, the stages of loss, all those things. We've learned and understood them. And those are things that were ignored previously. So we have to start somewhere. You know, I always say to people, the best way to eat an elephant is in bite-sized pieces. Because if we say let's go and address this issue in a community, people will say, well, the problem is too big, and we never start. But we need to start. Starting is the most important thing. We've got to start somewhere.
I'm
I
glad
think
you're saying this, Todd, because sorry, Wimba, just before you come in, it's funny because we spoke about we had when we were trying to narrow this topic down so that it's more relevant to our times and what we're dealing with right now. We thought about a lot of things that are happening in this festive season. We talk about human trafficking and all these other things that we all know, break-ins, and for some reason, mental health keeps coming, and it's something we have to deal with. Wimbai.
I just wanted to add on what Todd was saying. I think he touched based on a number of things that are very crucial. He spoke about when you lose a loved one. And I think, like he said, these are difficult times that we are living in. And you also posed a question on how do you deal with it after you lose a loved one. He mentioned that there are times where you have to accept the things that you cannot change in life. And I think that's a very crucial factor. That in as much as, yes, we lose loved ones and it hurts us so much, but we still have to continue with life. It might sound rude, but what I'm just trying to emphasize on what Todd was saying is we need to accept the things that we cannot change in life. I think it's very crucial that as human beings, we do our best. What have I done to assist the next person? If I do my best and then maybe my loved one continues to go on and commit suicide, I think the most crucial factor that I want to get to is, have you done your best to help somebody? That's the point that I'm trying to bring home, that do your best to help somebody. Somebody spoke about when you check in with people, how are you doing? Are you genuinely meaning it? When you ask someone, how are you? Be willing to be there to look at all those signs. I know you said people wear masks, but yes, people wear masks. But if you ask me, how are you? You can also tell by the non-verbal communication. I can say to you, yeah, I'm fine, but definitely shows I'm not fine. Or I can just say it in an abrupt way that you can tell that, no, this person is not fine. We need to open those conversations. That's what Todd was also saying, that we need to open those conversations more. We need to speak more and explore further what the person is going through. But anyway, to deal with, I think you posed a number of questions. To deal with those things, I think we need to try not to control things that are beyond the uncontrollable. I want to speak about the behaviors, mainly the behaviors of other people. You cannot control the way other people decide to treat you or the way that other people decide to just behave, but you can definitely control how you react to situations. So I think it's also up to us when someone does something to me that I'm not happy about, I cannot control it because they have made a decision that they want to react in a certain way. But I can definitely address it to make sure that we don't have a repetition of the things. But if it continues happening, what's important is if I addressed it with the person. Thank you.
May
That's a
I
lot.
just add on there? Sorry, just 1 second. Could I just add on? Our problem, as Wimba rightly pointed out, we tend not to address things. And when I say address things, you don't necessarily have to address things with the person that has done it to you or with the situation itself. But sometimes you actually have to address it with yourself and encourage yourself and have a meeting with yourself, have a sit down, a one-to-one with yourself to understand what happened, how did it happen, how do I move on? That's a very, very important thing to do in life.
Also, looking for the upside down, another point that I wanted to say is looking for the upside down. You spoke about when you lose a loved one. There's a saying which says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So you can go through life by learning from the experiences, learning how to comfort other people when they go through the same, because what doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
I also,
Yeah,
I,
Paul,
well, I'm glad all these things are coming out, man. I'm gonna pitch you in just now. I'm glad these things are coming through because I also think it's okay not to be strong, eh? To just not be strong. I loved what Todd was saying when he say on this unfortunate incident when he lost his sister-in-law. Condolences for that. However, you have to be strong for the family, and sometimes it's also tiring to be strong for everybody else. You have to sometimes find yourself and tell yourself, on this one, I'm going to sit this one in. I've had instances all
I think
myself.
that's where the challenge is, Paul, of saying you have to be strong for everybody else. I think you're also contradicting yourself. You said when you started that it's also good not to be strong. When you feel you're not strong and you need to seek help, it's very crucial. You don't have to be strong for everybody else. If you need to seek help, seek help. If you need to speak to someone that you can trust, a trusted friend that can help you, they say a problem shared is a problem halved. So you don't need to show people that you are strong when you are not. We all need some support system.
I think it is. I think it is possible
Blame
to
it on
be.
Schwarzenegger. We grew up watching too much Schwarzenegger, and we think we have to somehow kick into our German accent and push stuff out. I'm coming back to you, man, Todd. But can I shed a light on this, Todd, so that you can really push this one through? How do we get beyond just uh, talking about this to actually going out to seek help? As a man, do I have to go to a pharmacist or a social worker or a GP, and then I have to be directed from there? How do we go from this conversation? And I'm sitting here at home and I'm thinking, I think I've got a mental health issue. From here on, what's my next step? Do I speak to my pastor? Do I speak to my wife or my girlfriend? Or do I go? For me, let me just throw this out there before I give you back, Todd. If you meet me and you say hi, and I say hi back in this festive season, it means there's no money in my account. It's affecting my mental health. Send me some money in my account. But yeah, Todd.
That's it's a tricky one. There are many ways to kill a cat, a million ways to kill a cat. Let's put it that way, right? You need to find. Okay, first of all, if you are the one with the mental issue, with the mental health problem, you need to acknowledge. You need to get to a point where you actually realize and recognize that you have a mental health problem, or you have an issue that you need to address. Sometimes we can see it from outside, like the I'll give an example of in Zimbabwe at the minute, you've got these people who are popular, you know but when you look at the behavior of these popular people and the way they're leading people, you can tell it's not normal. There's something wrong. Now if you approach someone who's popular and say, look, let's have a discussion because I think there may be an issue, they immediately become defensive. So we have to find a way of breaking through the barrier. If it's someone have you noticed, like, I don't know if we do it now, but when I was growing up, the men used to go and sit at the beer hall and they would be talking and chatting. And in those discussions, sometimes it would be just a comment that someone passes, like, you are the never cards, which means that, look, women don't respect you, and then that's it's a door, it's opening, because we are men, we're among men. So I can turn around and say, no, it's not that they don't respect me, they just don't understand me. And that opens up the discussion as, okay, so what is it that they don't understand about you? So already we are in that counseling session now where we are talking about a situation that we have noticed that you're struggling with. And then even from that group, if someone says from that group, you know what, I think you need professional help, it's easy for you to take it on because this is a group of trusted people, your friends. But that doesn't happen often nowadays. We have these hotline numbers, we have, the online consultations, and it takes me to realize I have an issue, I have a problem. I have to understand it and acknowledge it for me to reach out for help. Because when I try to speak to someone, they'll ask, what is the problem? What makes you think you've got that problem? And then they start delving into other areas of my life. Is there family history of it? How did you grow up? Your upbringing? And I don't want to discuss that. I just want to discuss the problem. So I'm forced to close up simply because when I open up, I think they're taking too much. And when they've taken too much, I don't expect anything back because you hardly get anything to support you. You get either medication, you get section, you go into hospital, you get all these interventions that are not really what I want. So it's a complex, scenario, and there's so many different ways to deal with it.
But I think to just ask maybe for you to clarify, Todd, on what you are saying, that when you go to seek help, you get the help that you don't expect. I feel like you can voice out, especially when you go to a therapist. I think they ask you what is it that you want to address, and if you feel they are not addressing the problem that you are bringing on the table, you can speak out and tell them, but this is what I'm expecting from this.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
Can
said
I jump in on
Dubai
that?
because now you actually made this whole link up. Todd is saying men also go out there and women, young boys and girls go out there and say, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm vulnerable. And sometimes we don't get the help that we prefer or the help that we're looking for. And then you come in and you say, put your expectations out so that you are dealt with on a realistic level. I want to pitch in Life now because we're about to close. But before I do that, I'm glad of this connection because sometimes expectation doesn't meet reality or reality doesn't meet expectation. And you don't have to give up because what you're expecting is not being met. It's just like choosing a partner. Sometimes you try this one doesn't work, you move on. Be on the constant set, be on the constant lookout, and look for people like Wimbai. They'll tell you where to go as social workers. I actually think social workers are actually better prepared to do some of this stuff. Life.
Yes, I was going to say that perhaps one of the most important lessons we are going to learn as Africans is that our pastors, our imams, our religious leaders are not necessarily therapists. I think we have to learn. We have to learn that your pastor is not necessarily a therapist. So when you're having mental health issues, your pastor can be clueless about what you are going through. That's why we have people who are running mad, and the best the pastor can recommend is fasting and prayer. What this person needs is beyond fasting and prayer. So I think we have to understand that because we tend to be Africans tend to be really religious, but we have to understand that some of these issues they are not religious, they are not necessarily religious problems. Now there are also times when you don't really know what the problem is. One of the first thing a therapist does for you, one of the first thing a coach does for you is some form of diagnosis, trying to understand what the problem is. Sometimes you yourself can think it is just that you don't have money, but there is a deeper problem. It is that that time when you don't have money, it reminds you of how your father did not have money, and then a lot of issues go down, they go deeper than just the fact that you don't have money in your account. And what the therapist does is to help you understand what the root of the problem is. If there are some negative emotions, negative beliefs that you need to, because everything is learned. We learn everything, how we believe, how we talk, how we think, everything is learned. So what the therapist helps you to do is to unlearn some of those things, and it can take a process. I think we also need to embrace the fact that recovering from mental health issues can take a while. It's not going to, there are no quick fixes to these things. We cannot continue to expect that somebody who is not feeling well mentally today will be okay tomorrow. Sometimes these things take a while, and we have to give people time. The last thing I was hoping I would be able to say is that we really need to see festive seasons as a period to rest. I know it has been a long time. Many of us have had too much time on our hands during the lockdown. But even at this time, it is important that people rest. A lot of people come in with so much stress. You have been working all year round, and then there are a few days to take a break. I think it is important for every one of us that we take some time to rest. If you have access to a beach side, go to the beach. If you can go to a restaurant to eat with your family, those are some of the things that we really need to do. Some of us need to rest, and some of us really the solution to your mental problem is some money. So if I think I like what Paul said, and
I am going to have
someone
to
should just send
shortchange you.
to my bank account. It really takes care of all my mental health problems right now.
Unfortunately, all these good things have to come to an end, and our clock has been getting as red can be. Just 30 seconds, guys. Each of you, just 30 seconds. If you see me shaking my head like this, you have gone on too long because our clock is winding. So I'll start from you, Todd, Alipe, all the way up.
All right. Just to quickly answer what Vimbai said earlier. See, in the UK, for a normal person, if you start having problems, the first port of call is your GP. Your GP refers you to some assessment center. That assessment center will send you somewhere else. So by the time you get the help, it's usually like 6, 12 months down the line, and the problem has been getting worse. But
So you
coming back
cannot
to our point of
access,
discussion about mental
if
health,
say you wake up and you feel, okay, I'm feeling stressed out, or maybe I can realize that I think I'm having anxiety issues, or I think my stress is developing maybe into a depression mode or something like that. I cannot refer myself to a therapist.
it's very difficult. You need to have the money to do it. If you want it on the National Health Service, which we can all afford, then you have to go through your general practitioner or referrals, especially even now in the COVID. If you feel that you have chest pains and you're bleeding and whatever, you're showing all the symptoms of COVID and you need a specialist, the ambulance will actually phone your general practitioner when they come to pick you up. And then to refer you for endoscopy and for all the other investigations, your GP has to
Do
sign
you
that
know
off.
what you
That is the
guys
system
are
that we've got.
talking about? Do you
Sorry?
know what you guys are talking about is as catamount as discovering platinum in some of these African territories, like picking platinum on the streets. We don't. Sometimes we don't have that healthcare facility and structures to really have exactly the procedure that you explained right now. For some of us, we think Grandpa and Eno can solve mental health issues, and it's so sad. But I'm glad this conversation is going on. Um, just from a layman's perspective, I would really appreciate Bob chats as we go, that we post some footnotes, and you guys just, if you have some comments that you still need to put out there on a 5 minute clip all this week. This issue is hot. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of the show. I'm so sorry, guys. I feel like there's so much we can still talk about. But I think we can have this one again. We'll look into that one. But from me now, I have to say my goodbyes. It's been an honor and a blessing to have you guys. It's bye bye for now.
Thank you, Paul.